That is the coolest
Good
entry
morning.
to any show. I just want you to know. The coolest
I
of all
love
the
it.
shows.
I love it.
Yes.
I love it. Good morning, everyone, and welcome back with Anne-Marie. It's been a while since we last had you, a couple of months maybe, but it's always a pleasure to have you here. Love talking to you about markets, and welcome back.
I'm happy to be here. Love spending time with you, especially because every time I come to my platform at MenthorQ, there's always something exciting to be found. It is an amazing platform.
Yeah, and today we are also going to show some new toys, especially for those trading futures. So we're going to go over that. But I think before we were live, Anne-Marie, we were talking about some interesting things. You know, obviously it's the last quarter. I think we have now, if we look at the institutional level, we have now from now till kind of Thanksgiving. This is when most of the action typically is taken from institution. Then after Thanksgiving, kind of it all dies down because you have the holidays and then you have Christmas. So a lot of the bets will be placed from now till kind of like the Thanksgiving time. Of course, anything could happen. You know, things could move also after Thanksgiving if there's any catalyst, any macroeconomic events. But in a normal scenario, typically that's when big institutions are kind of placing the bets. And then there's really interesting things happening. Here, for example, we're going to go start with yes, but you know, we saw a massive drop at the open, and it was right at this kind of zerities level. So we saw like this massive kind of like drop right at the level, which is interesting. And then we can go and look at other assets as well. But yeah, let me know like what are you seeing in the market and how you're kind of like placing your bets right now for the end of the year.
So I certainly could see a lot of the traders watching this level that MenthorQ gave us here at this 67.79-ish, 67.80-ish level. So no, this morning I saw there were 1,000 ES contracts sitting up at that 67.79 area, and we broke it. And then as soon as we lost it, I mean, the cascade was immediate.
Yeah.
It was just a beautiful way of looking at that call wall and then going to your trading platform. If you've got your depth of market open, or you can see where the prices are setting up, you know that traders are also positioning there as well. It'll tell you, hey, they're positioning there, let the top expand, and then once it loses it again, you've seen all that volume go in. You know their goal is, hey, time to liquidate back down into our last structures. And so my thought is that it is that 0 DTE HBL you've got there at around 67.50-ish. Yeah.
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 Yeah, so that could be,
67.60
and
was a
also,
big level. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, and also we have this JAX one. So I think the break of this level also was very strong to the downside. You can also look at SPX, how SPX is, but yeah, very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. It is doing exactly what these gamma lines are telling us to do. We just have to look at them properly and say, what's next? And remember, for those of us that are newer with MenthorQ, or we're really learning the platform and how it gives us information, particularly me as a futures trader, I'm very keen on looking at these call levels and these GEX levels, because they tell me if my trend is up and I am not breaking down and rotating back to a lower gamma line, it is very likely that I rotate up to the next gamma line. So the trend is your friend from that space, and those gamma lines really give you all right, where can I stair step from one to the next? And then realize that nothing is exact because there are hundreds and thousands of us that are positioning in opposite directions because we're thinking about what we think the market's going to do. But MenthorQ tells us, hey, listen, here's where the decisions are going to get made. And which is why I look at this every morning. It's the most important thing for me to stare down, simply because it tells me where the battles are going to occur.
Yeah, and I think for those who are not familiar with the kind of option, the importance of options, like let's think about in technical analysis terms, right? So we are trading at all-time highs. So obviously it's always very challenging because you don't really have past price action at those levels, right? So you don't really know where the support and resistance area could be. So if you were trading today, yes, let's say that you went long or you took the break of this previous high, like where do you stop and how do you position your risk? So that's where kind of like this level can come into play, because they are forward-looking levels. They actually look at where the market is thinking the price could go rather than where it has been in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. And it literally, what other forward indicator do we have that has that level of reliability? There isn't any. This is it.
Yeah, and I wanted to show, let me see if I can get it. I want to show a chart from yesterday because yesterday was actually a pretty interesting one. Let me share it. 1 second. Yeah, I don't know if you traded NQ yesterday, but this was the levels that we had yesterday. So this was, oops, this was the chart of NQ from yesterday, right? So it's a screenshot that I took yesterday. So the market dropped during the pre-market session, went all the way to our one-day main put support area, and then kind of rebounds all the way to the core resistance, right? So again, that could have been an interesting area to kind of get into this trade. You have your one-day minimum, you know what that means. You have a put support, and then suddenly you see the break through these kind of like boxes here. So this was really interesting trade that I think a lot of our traders in our community took as well. So
yeah, that's very pretty.
Yeah, it's almost by the tick, maybe
Yeah,
1 point.
that's really
And
nice.
yeah, and then the other thing is, of course, don't just look at the levels, so come and look at the different models. I think we were talking about gold, and gold is an interesting one. We can open it up here. Gold has been kind of like skyrocketing to all-time highs. So we've been going through really breaking through all-time highs. And of course, today we saw kind of like a big drop for the day. But at the same time, you know, like we are at all-time highs, so retracement is very well possible.
Yeah, and see, here's what we're noticing with gold. If we go back in time, we can see several days like this where the savage move down and then an absolute rocket to the upside. And so what we want to see is how it responds down here at these levels. We can look to the left and see that that GEX2 is probably our next target space. So we might have a reflexive long setting up there. Maybe it'll happen before we leave on the day together, and we can see about this trade positioning up. But right now, they are just running for the hills.
Yeah. And if we look at kind of like the positioning on gold, we're still very, very skewed to kind of like the positive gamma position. So there's not really a lot of negative gamma piling up on gold. We have to see what happens at the end of the day. But one thing that it's really interesting to understand is that the implied volatility of gold is almost at the highest it has been. So here what we see is one of our models, which is the volatility risk premium. So this tells you the difference between implied volatility and historical volatility. So we are almost at the 100% for the past 3 months. So the implied volatility of gold in this case is, so the difference between the implied volatility and historical volatility is way higher than it has been over the past 3 months. So that tells me that there's a lot of like priced in action in the option market. So obviously, beware if you are buying options that you're actually paying a very, very high premium. So if you are buying options on gold, you're actually paying a lot of premium. So what could happen is that if volatility decreases, even if the price kind of like stays in the range, you probably could potentially lose money from the premium of the option.
Yeah. And
So that's how you
on a
can.
flip side, when you have this kind of information, which is fantastic, a lot of us wonder, hey, is it better to buy a flat out call or a flat out put rather than put a spread in place? And so if you're looking at a space where volatility is making risk premium on the option much higher, think about a spread. A spread will limit your outlay and give you maybe some better opportunities to participate in the direction of motion.
Yeah, and like for example, what if we go back to Tesla, like just to show you, like we're gonna show you later as well, but basically, if we look at Tesla, we're in the same picture, right? We are basically at the highest, at the 98%. So right now you have an implied volatility of 63% and an historical volatility of 45, right? So if we go back just a couple of months, and we were looking at August 7th, so we were actually at, and we don't have this yet, but we can look that the implied volatility of Tesla was 45. So we're now 63 and then was 45, right? So if you both calls at that time would have been good because the implied volatility historically was way lower than it normally is. But if you do that now, then you're risking that. What happens if we go back to a 45% implied volatility? So August 7 is kind of this area. So you see how the risk premium is actually very low. So buying calls or buying puts, depending on your view at that time, would have been good because your volatility was much lower. Right now is at the maximum. So what happens if we go back to today, and the implied volatility goes back to 45%, right? We're 63. You're going to lose 20% in implied volatility, so your option premium will kind of lose based on that. So.
Okay, so the last thing that I see up here in the Q scores is that there's a slightly negative seasonality event.
Yep.
So explain to me how this seasonality, how you might use this seasonality Q score in looking at a chart and how you might trade it inside of all our data.
Yeah, so just for those who don't know, so the Q score is really a barometer on the asset. So we develop it because we wanted to simplify all the different data that we have. So a lot of it can be overwhelming. So for those who don't really trade options, for those who are not familiar with gamma levels, gamma hedging, delta hedging, all of that can be quite overwhelming, right? But the idea behind it is like, it doesn't matter how complex the data is. What you really want to understand is like, are we in a bullish trend? Are we in a bearish trend? And what are the levels that we should be looking for? So the Q score is telling us basically by looking at different factors, and we have 4 right now. We look at option activity, we look at momentum, volatility and seasonality. The score is a 0 to 5 score besides of seasonality, which is a -5 to +5. And basically 5 is bullish, 0 is bearish, -5 is of course bearish, and +5 is of course bullish in case of seasonality. The seasonality score is looking at the past 20 years of data to forecast the next 5 days of price action.
So it's 5 days.
The next
Is
5
what
days.
it does. Okay.
So
Okay.
if we look at the chart here, we can actually get the seasonality chart as well. So we also have a time series. So for those so if you want to incorporate this into kind of your analysis, then you can kind of see what happens when seasonality went from bearish to bullish. Like for example, here, this was a great start of the trend, and then of course here,
Wow.
when it went from negative, you start seeing kind of this trade move. So you can kind of really understand how it has moved. But like what I really like is the option score. And if you see here, when we went from negative to positive, it's when we really started seeing the change in direction.
Okay. So in general, you like to put more weight on the option score more than relative seasonality, other than seasonality giving you a potential look at where a dip buy might occur, since the markets have a general positive skew.
Yeah. So I think you always have to think as hedge funds would do. And tomorrow we have a session live on YouTube where I'm going to talk about trading like a quant, right? So everybody looks at quant, oh my God, I will never be able to be like that. But in reality, it's not as complicated as people think. So
what time is that again tomorrow?
I think it's at 12. Okay. But basically, the idea behind it is, how do institutions trade? They trade in a very complex way, but in reality, it's actually quite simple. They start from a baseline strategy, right? So the strategy could be a momentum strategy, could be an option delta hedging strategy, could be like it could be any strategy that the fund designs. So like a lot of these funds, they have mandates, so they might trade certain sectors, they might trade certain asset classes, they might go long short volatility. It really depends on the fund. So once you have your baseline strategy, then you can kind of start augmenting that strategy. So the goal of the strategy is to increase your alpha, so your excessive return, right? So if the S&P returns 8% a year and your strategy returns 10%, then you actually have an excessive return of 2%. That is your alpha, right? So how can I make my alpha next year 3%, 4%, or 5%, or even greater, right? So you do that by adding layers. It's kind of like you add ingredients to your strategy. And the Q score can be seen as one of those ingredients. So the Q score can be a factor that you can use on your baseline strategy to augment it and make it better. And tomorrow we're going to show some use case on that.
Excellent.
So basically the way I use it, for example, when I look at the Tesla in this case, I would use, so I would not necessarily use the number, but I would want to find opportunities when I see a big change in the score.
Okay.
So like for example, right now, it's very risky to buy Tesla because we're at all-time high, the score is high, but we can actually play it with other things. So we can actually look at option strategy. So we know that the volatility is really high. So I could actually get a lot of premium for my options. So maybe I could like sell puts or sell calls depending on my view. And then you could have your swing model here that will tell you what are the levels that could be at play for the next 5 or 20 days. So you could use those strikes to potentially place your trade.
Gold just came down to 38.50 at your gamma line and has started the bounce.
Let's see. So we are at the 1-day minimum.
Yeah. So crud sickles. I forgot to initiate my order right there. Crumbs. All right. Maybe it'll give me a second shot. Perfect. Love it when things come together live. Fantastic. We'll see what happens here. This is just really great. I have watched gold respond so beautifully to these price levels, and I really do want to share something about the nature of the gold trader coming up against these call resistance walls. So for a couple of days, this 3,900 has been super important. And so we know that because the call wall is there, folks have sold that premium in that space in general, right? And so when things start expanding out of that region, they're going to buy the instrument and follow it up so that their portfolio balance doesn't start going down a cliff. And at some juncture, they're going to go, okay, that's enough. Let's see if we can force it back down through the wall. So the question for the trader is always, hey, I've breached my wall. I see my GEX level above. Remember, that's where we will go if we hold above one gamma line and we repeatedly test. We're going to really try to hit that second gamma line. As you can see, it did that early pre-market, coming right in at that roundabout. I think it came out at like 39.23ish or something like that. The gamma line was 25. You could tell they were stepping in front of that line because, again, the goal is to push it below the gamma wall and that call resistance wall. And so as you see it unable to get above GEX 1, you know that if price action on your candlesticks continues down, you're going to try and hit that wall. And most everybody in that space wants it to slip inside of that range. And as soon as you can see it catch, you're off to the races. So we've got gold coming back in for another test of 38.50. I got my order waiting out here. We'll see if it goes, and it'll be an absolutely beautiful formation for us that we get live on the show. So that's super fun.
I think I like the analogy that Patrick uses. So the GEX level can be looked at like soldier or friends that are protecting a level for you. So
I love that.
Yeah, they're acting as kind of like your ally whenever.
Friend or foe.
Yeah, exactly. So use them, to your advantage for sure. And now, we're just like in this area. Let's see if we can hold these levels right here. We have our 1 minute for the day.
Probably going to be a little bit of a rock fight there. So you want to manage your risk. You don't want to pile in real big there. Just watch for it. And I think we consolidate in that zone and then make a push to the next level. But I really like that zone. Yeah. It's nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I think I wanna show you a couple of new toys.
Excited.
So one thing that we have is real-time alerts now, especially for futures traders and but for anyone actually, really. So basically, we have a new indicator on TradingView, which is called the scanner, and we automatically update the levels for these assets. So there's about 20 assets, but you can also then, if you trade assets that are not covered here, you can simply come to your dashboard and just, for example, if I want to look at Salesforce, you could do this on any asset that we cover, and you simply come and copy the TradingView levels right here, and then paste them right there. You can upload up to 20 assets, and then you can have your default tickers, your custom tickers. So you have your Salesforce here. I'm going to take that away for a second. And then you can also create a table with all our data. So within TradingView, you can now have all the Q scores of the asset. right there, so you can monitor gamma condition, implied volatility, Q score, seasonality, like we were watching before. But then the cool thing is that you get the alert here. So now we have SPX is breaking down core resistance 0DTE, so we can move to SPX. You can see right there. So we have the gamma levels, we have the alerts, and then here we have our level. So we are alerted real time, but I'm also going to show you how you can add notification. So you can click here, just remove this for a second. And then basically what you do is you just simply come on the alert section, click on create alert. This takes less than 5 seconds. Just click here, create. And then based on your notifications, you can be alerted via app, like here, email, or sound. So we just got the alert here about this core resistance on SPX. And then,
wow. Oh my goodness. I love that.
so obviously, the sound can get annoying, but you do have, yeah, you can then look at the alert here.
Okay, that's fantastic. That is such a useful tool.
Yeah. And then here you can be alerted on. So then, of course, you can select the levels that you want to be alerted on. So a lot of people don't want to be alerted on everything. So you can just untick some of these boxes.
Yes. Yeah,
You can
for
be
sure.
alerted on breakouts and breakdowns. So a breakout means the price goes from below to above. A breakdown is the price goes from above to below. So you can have both of them. So if you're just looking for a breakout or a breakdown, you can do that. And then you can kind of like position stuff. The good thing is that once you set up the alert, you can actually hide the indicator, and basically you still receive the pop-up.
Okay, that is a fantastic tool.
So
Coming down to that
Microsoft-
6,700, this is another big fight here in, oh my gosh, what a beautiful bounce in gold. We've got a big fight here at this 6,700. There's such a huge difference between those gamma lines. It could be pretty choppy here, but I know they want to hold it, right? They definitely want to. Look at how pretty that bounce is. That is very, very nice. It would be nice if it pulls back and gives us another shot. But as we've been saying, that move with selling in gold has been absolutely dramatic and has run the other way every single time we see this savage downward move. So what do you see in terms of the levels that we're sitting in the ES or the NQ? And have you thought of, with this new scanner tool, that is truly beautiful. If you've got that sitting up, are there any stocks that you look at to help you sort of gauge what might be going on in the future space? Like,
yeah, so absolutely. So for example, the scanner, within the scanner, we automatically upload, all the ETFs, SPX, QQQ, Max 7 companies, of course. You have DIA, you have Bitcoin, you have gold and crude, right? So those are the top assets. This is, we manage it from our end. So every morning you remove, you re-add the indicator, and the new levels that you see on your chart are going to be uploaded here with also the data. So if you look at the Q score, that will also be updated. But then, of course, a lot of traders want to have the flexibility of, if you trade small cap, you could still upload the data on small cap stock here and be alerted there as well.
okay,
So that's flexibility, So if I want my custom tickers, I can simply choose that, and now I have my search force that I uploaded here. So alert. So it's really flexible. We build it so that everybody.
Love that. That is fantastic.
But most of the users would probably be willing to trade ES and Q, gold, Max 7. So that's why we create a custom list already, like a default list already pre-populated.
Yeah, I
When
like
it
that.
comes
Bats.
when it
Wizard.
comes to ES, I always want to monitor what's happening with the correlated assets. So I always want to look, for example, if there is any divergence in SPY or SPX, because it's always important to understand that ES and SPX mostly is traded by retail traders, but also institutions that are hedging, right? So ES is used by big funds to hedge their long-term position, right? So they trade a lot of ES contracts to hedge on their longer-term portfolio. If we look at SPY, this is really the 401k plans, the long asset managers, longer-term horizon. So whenever I see something changing here, that can tell me, okay, hold on, longer term investors are hedging more because they might be scared of like a downside risk. But right now, we don't really see that, but we do see that if we look at the volatility premium on SPY, we're still at a very, very high level. So implied volatility on SPY is kind of very high compared to what historically it has been versus historical volatility.
Interesting.
So it's always important to understand, typical when volatility is high, people are either willing to pay more for protection or pay more for upside. But at the same time, it could actually increase your risk if you are like a trader. So
Yeah,
it's not like uncommon that you see these big moves because volatility is so high.
very good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, and the other thing that I always would say, like you always have to adapt. So, for example, if your strategy is scalping ES, 5 points and 2 point stop, whenever you see something like this, then maybe that's not going to work because volatility could actually be higher. So maybe you want to move a micro contract, or maybe you want to like increase your risk reward ratio or your stop loss take profit targets.
Good to know. Good to
Yeah.
know.
And we had a question from Andres. How may I incorporate TV scanner as battery of my indicators? Well, the scanner really, Andres, is a way for you to stay alerted of things that are happening by monitoring 20 plus assets, right? So clearly, like if you trade one asset, you can't really have 20 charts open. So what the scanner does is telling me, oh my God, like there's a breakdown of put support 0DD on Meta. And Meta, of course, is a very big component of the NASDAQ and the SPX. So maybe that could be important for you. So really like being alerted. Maybe you trade 3 assets and you just want to be alerted on ES and NQ. Then in that case, you can simply paste your level here and then just select custom tickers. And then you just get alerted on the ones that you care about. So,
Yeah, that's a great way to do it in my mind. That's
yeah.
great.
So maybe you only trade the S and you don't want to have all 20 of them. Just put the S levels here, and you'll be alerted. So if I go here, I can go under the S. So I can type yes. I just take my futures levels. Copy them, paste them here, and then just go and create the alert. So just whenever you change the settings, just make sure you remove and create a new alert, and then you'll be alerted on yes here.
Excellent. And so the plus sign is all you need to do to activate the alert screen.
Yeah, so just here, make sure the scanner is selected, create, and then now we're gonna have our alert here, and then I think once we hit one of these level on ES, we should get a notification.
Okay, very good.
So that's the Salesforce.
Very good. Awesome.
And then I want to show you another toy, and then I'm gonna open up for questions. So I don't know if you use Ninja Trader, but this is going to be a available on TrendSpider as well very soon. So I know you use that platform, but
Yeah.
basically what we have now is the ability to get historical levels. So now what this does,
Love that.
if I change that to 30 minutes, so now what you can see is you can see, you know,
The shifts.
the
I've been
current,
taking snapshots to do that. So this is fantastic.
yeah. So now you can see basically like the price action for today. So you can use the levels for today, and then you can kind of go back in time and see how things have changed over time. So for example, here we can see how the price reacted there. We can see how it reacted around core resistance, HVLs yesterday. Yeah, so I think it's very, very useful. And you can run some, you know, playback. You can go back in time, see how you would have reacted if you were at that time. You can actually place like trades there as well. So you can, yeah, you can play on, but it's really cool. Really, really nice.
Yeah, I love that. Because really, you do want to know if the price action during the course of the day changes the way the hedges are positioned. It's very, very important. So, like between yesterday and today, we can see looking right here that even though we had all that solid upside movement, the put support did not change. And so they are still positioning on the side of, I better stay cautious and not raise that put support up, exposing myself anymore to potential risk until I stabilize over that range. I absolutely love this. The only way I've been doing my snapshots every day because I want to see how they change. So this is absolutely beautiful. Love it.
Yeah. No, it's awesome. And yeah, then with TrendSpider, you're going to be able to run some backtesting using their backtesting tool. So that's going to be pretty cool. Yeah, and then
Any chance that scanner is in the works for TrendSpider in the coming horizon?
well, TrendSpider, we actually already have a scanner, so I'll show you.
Okay.
So
I'm not sure how I missed that.
So, well, TrendSpider is actually pretty powerful in terms of scanning. So there's not, we don't really have a real-time alerting. I think the alerting part is a little bit not as good as what we have there. But if we look at the gamma levels here, but basically, give me 1 second. Yeah, we have a really cool feature there available. And you use TrendSpider a lot, right?
Oh my gosh, it's my go-to. I love TrendSpider. Absolutely love them. I'm a dyed-in-the-wool TrendSpider.
All right, so let me show you. So with TrendSpider, first of all, the data updates via API, similar to what it does with Ninja. So we can actually have, our coverage, which is about 1,200 assets. So we have all of them. So just by clicking.
Oh, why? How did I miss that?
I'll show you where you can find it.
I'll see it. Yeah. I see where it is. It's in the widget. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, like this is all the assets that we cover. So if you trade, for example, Bitcoin, you can get your levels on Bitcoin. So all of this is dynamic. So whenever we update our coverage, you will see it here. But the cool thing is that you can now go on Market Scanner, and then we have some pre-built scanner, but I recreated them for me. So let's say that I want to be alerted of assets that are approaching core resistance. I can quickly scan that, and basically I can see that Nike, for example, is approaching core resistance, and is right here. So it's within 0.5%.
Oh my gosh, that's incredible.
And then I can do the same thing for the other levels, so we can see if there's any stocks or indices or futures. So you could do it on anything. There's approaching 1 day min, so there's nothing there. Let's say put support. So now we get a list of assets. So like, whatever, McDonald's is now approaching is 0.5% with input support. So again, you can see it there. And then of course, IVO level as well. So if you're looking for some breakout trades, for example, ExxonMobil, right at the HVL, so that could be an interesting area. So again, you can do that really.
Love it. Thank you so much. I'm going to be playing with that this afternoon.
Yeah, absolutely. We have a question from Drew. Is that available? The thing that I showed you on Ninja available on TradingView? No, we don't have it yet, just for platform limitations. So it's very challenging to send data to TradingView, so we don't really have the historical data yet. Maybe in the future if we are able to develop it, but at this point it will be on Ninja and Transpider. Let's see. Just monitor our gold price happen.
Got a little bit of a rock fight here, as I suspected, but it's building the things I like to look for.
Our friends protected.
Yeah, I like to look at a higher low presenting, and then that higher low ends up being a space that I would say, hey, let me see if I can engage there. And then, of course, that's our 1 day min. So that's perfect. And my stop would be right underneath the bottom of that range. But I really like it. Now, what's going to be very interesting for those of us that trade and understand flow a little bit, if we dance around here and we don't have that reflexive upside, it's a change of temperament. So we're going to watch these walls shift into the next day and probably come down into the next lower levels if we don't do what we've normally done, and we'll have continuation to the downside. So again, remember these, I love that soldier or friend, but I have a lot of friends that are soldiers, so I'll call them friend or foe. Yeah, and so sure. What we can look at is seeing where these gamma lines are being supportive versus resistance. And so right now we're seeing the battleground between the gamma level 2 and the gamma level 7. And that should tell us, hey, wait a second, don't assume what's going to happen. Let the struggle unfurl a little bit so that you can see how these traders are positioning. Because remember, gold has been on an unbelievable tear, and it's got a lot of room to pull back into deeper levels below. But this zone is very important. So I'm super interested in the fight. I still have my buy at the 38.50 level. And I've got some support action all the way down to 42, I'll say. But if it bounces up and it can't get back up over that 1 day minimum, we've got gamma lines below that give us these targets. And the lower one at 38.25 is the one I would not be surprised to see if indeed continuation continues to the north. South, excuse me.
Yeah, makes sense. We have a question, SPX, no problem. So for SPX, of course, we open with a gap, and now we're bouncing off this core resistance 0D. And then, of course, if you look at SPX, you can also look at the intraday actions. So I think this is also interesting. We can look at the 0D's net gamma exposure chart every 30 minutes. So if you go under intraday, you can see how things are changing at the intraday level. But what's really interesting is actually for me is the JAX difference. So the change in gamma between different snapshots. So here we have the change between 9:35 and 10. So we saw a lot of like negative gamma piling up at those strikes, 10. And then here you can see like between 10:30 and 11. And then now we're gonna wait for the next snapshot. So like, how can you use that data? Very, very simple. So let's say that you are short SPX because maybe you think maybe the price is overstretched. I want to like try a reversal. So you can actually come here and you can kind of see if like these kind of like positioning confirms your view. So if you see that now we start seeing a lot of like green positive gamma piling up, then maybe that could be a sign that things have changed, right? Things are kind of changing. So we can do the same historically. We can go back in time and see how that would affect that. But the idea is really simple. You know, like changing gamma, changing option flow can help you understand where the market could potentially move. So if we go back to yesterday, let's see, this could be an interesting case. So if we go back to yesterday, and we look at SPX, right, so you see there's 14 snapshots. So let's go back to the beginning of the day. So we open with a lot of negative gamma. From 9:35, there's a lot of negative gamma. And if we go back to the chart, this is like right here. So we open with a gap, and then we kind of like went back and then went all the way down right here. And then something changes from 10 to 10:30.
That's amazing, like, that flip. That's dramatic.
And then this is like, of course, you hit your 1 day minimum, things are starting to change, and then kind of the picture is kind of now confirming the whole movement for the day, right? So the way I use it is like if I get into, let's say that I'm taking a reversal trade here, I want to see that this tool confirms my direction. And whenever I'm in a trade, if I see things changing, then that's when so let's say that things were changing around here. So we are at 12, right? So here is like between 12 and 12:30, and we get this like big 6.765, which was a bit higher. But if we see like things changing around those strikes, then that could be a signal for me. Okay, maybe this is getting into resistance. So maybe like if I want to trade, I want to maybe increase my take profit target, or sorry, my stop loss, trading stop, and basically use it as kind of like a way to balance my profits and loss.
I like that. I had not thought of using that in terms of helping me see if I was sitting in the right direction based on flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
Yeah.
a lot.
All right, guys, let us know if you have any more questions for me on Marie. I mean, this has been awesome as always. We can go back to our gold just to see how it plays out for the last few minutes. Yeah, so our friends are protecting this level. We're still in the area, so there's a lot of like battle there.
Yeah.
Alert here. And yeah, so another thing that I want to show you guys. So next week, we are actually going to start covering a lot of, we're going to be live quite a bit. So just let me show it to you guys.
Ooh. Oh, could you share that one more time? Yeah.
So we are going to be live in the morning with our European session. We have Patrick and Maciej, who is a new trader within our group. We're going to cover gold and Forex mostly in the European session. Then we are going to do, well, this is kind of like the new schedule, an MenthorQ playbook at 8:30 every morning, Monday to Friday. This is available for our premium members. And then, of course, if you are a pro member, you can live trade with us. Then we're going to do an SPX deep dive after the market at around 2:30. And then, of course, for our pro members, you can trade live with us at 3 p.m. as well. So we have a dedicated room there. So yeah, like for next week, just there's a totally new schedule. Very excited, and we want to close the year strong. So we're gonna offer you guys a lot of more time and value, and of course, we have professional traders that are gonna be there for you guys.
Yeah, this is going to be a really big quarter. I mean, it's going to be probably one of the most unusual quarters we've had in terms of the amount of volatility, and for the individual intraday trader, the opportunities are going to be astounding, especially if you have something that is such a good roadmap the way MenthorQ is. It truly is. You open it up and it tells you every day, hey, listen, here's your roadmap. Here's your roadmap. You overlay it with your favorite indicators. Obviously, less is more in terms of my opinion. So a moving average might be all you might need. But staring these price patterns down and understanding how big money is positioning and big option flow is positioning gives you so much greater insight than, hey, I'm above the VWAP, or hey, I'm below the VWAP. This is just much more precise. That being said, it is a tool to be used. You just don't jump in and go, hey, I'm buying this at this line because it says this, or I'm buying it at this line, or I'm selling it at this line. You've got to, trading is a game where situational awareness is tremendously important. And what MenthorQ does is build that situational awareness. But simply because it's built, you've got the situational awareness, it doesn't mean that you go willy-nilly. If you're sitting in a very busy intersection, let's say in New York City, and that light says, hey, you can start walking across, you better look to the left, because there could be an oncoming cabbie that doesn't really care because he's got to get somewhere in an X amount of time. So understanding what the landscape's unveiling, but being attentive to risk. That's how you're going to make this type of tool work for you in very solid ways. I'm a huge fan of MenthorQ. I'm a huge fan of you, Fabio. You're just such a hard-working guy. You're just always saying, how can we do more? How can we build more for our community? And it's just, I'm so excited to be a part of things with you. It always feels great to get to spend time with you.
I feel the same way. So we love working with you. You know, you have a great energy, and you've been doing this for a very long time. So the experience that you bring is tremendous.
Thank you.
All right, guys. So I think we are at the close. So we're going to be back with you and Marie in a couple of weeks, I believe.
Yes.
And stay tuned also because so let me share. So for those who are not following us, please come to our YouTube channel, because from now till the end of the year, we're also going to have a lot of live sessions, and tomorrow is going to be a good one. Let me show it to you here. So tomorrow I'm going to show you some back testing results, how you can incorporate quant approach, even if you are trading as a retail trader. So just stay tuned here. Going to be back with Anne-Marie, and then in a couple of weeks we're going to present you our new AI tool, Quinn, Quantitative Intelligence by MenthorQ. So very excited about that. Some of you already have the chance to use it. If not, we're going to make a formal introduction in a couple of weeks on the 16th. So very excited.
Love it. Can't wait.
All right. Thank you, guys. And any questions, send us an email. Yeah, thank you, Anne-Marie, and see you soon.
All right. Take care, everybody. Bye.